Hey, what's going on, everyone? In this video, we are going to learn about semantic HTML. This video is best watched on a computer or laptop and does require the basics of web development, including separation of concerns and a text editor. If you need to learn about those, check out my last two videos in the description. Now let's begin the tutorial by learning what a semantic HTML element is. So what is a semantic element or HTML tag? And semantic HTML is when an element clearly describes its meaning to both the browser and the developer. So if we take a look at this diagram to the right, we can see two models that are represented in two different ways. Over on the left, we have what we call a div element and spans, and they basically create this model, but it doesn't really tell us what it does, right? I mean, it has a div, and inside the div there's a span, and then there's another div, and another div, and another div, but what does that really mean? It'd be hard if we coded this and came in and we're like, there's no real meaning behind this. When we compare it to something over on the right, it clearly defines what it's doing, right? So we have the header tag, inside it's the nav, right? And then we have an article, and a figure, and even a footer. And right, we might not really know what article or figure means in this context right now, but we have an idea, right? We've read an article before. Usually it's some type of content. A figure is usually something that's like a picture, or when we go to an art museum, it's a model, right? So we have an idea of what these are, and that's what semantic elements are, what semantic HTML is. It describes the code in a way that it basically documents itself, right? So when we compare these two models, we're going to choose the model on the right side because it clearly defines what the code is doing to both the browser and the developer. In the previous videos, we learned about how to build an HTML page, an index.html file. And in this video, we're going to learn about a way to really specify our code in a more direct way to the browser that will basically increase the meaning to the browser and to the developer ourselves. So what we call this is an HTML5 template, right? So at the top we have doc type HTML, and this is a tag that tells the browser that this is an HTML file, and this is required on all HTML pages. All right, and so now we have the HTML tag, and we've seen this before in the other two videos, and we have the lang HTML attribute, and that stands for language, and it's equal to EN for English, because we are going to be writing our website in English. If you were writing your website in Spanish, you would change EN to ES, right? And we learned about the head in the other videos. This is basically information that describes our website. Now these are two tags we haven't seen before, and they're both the same. So it's meta tags, right? But they both take different HTML attributes. And this first one is char set equals UTF-8. And that's basically a set of characters that this meta tag tells the browser that we're going to use. And this is the standard set of characters. So this is required if you want the browser to be able to understand the code that you are writing. Now in this other meta tag, we have what we would call a viewport meta tag, and right here we have an attribute name, and it's equal to viewport. And this is because we want to tell the browser that when we are resizing the browser at any point, we want to keep the width to the device width, right? So if we load our website on our mobile page, we want it to equal to the size of the phone. Vice versa, if we were on a desktop, we wanted to go to the size of the laptop we were on, right? So this tells the browser to always make our website the size of its device that it's on. And we learned about the title tag. This goes to the document. And then this is for the browser tab. And we wrote document in here. This is usually just default, but we can change this to whatever we want. And then we have our body where we write our content. And then we have our closing HTML tag. Now let's go into our VS Code app and create an index.html file using this HTML5 template. So now let's create an index.html file using what we learned about the HTML5 template and semantic HTML. So let's create a folder on our desktop and name it website, just like we did in the other videos. We're going to drag, or we're going to open up our VS Code app. Then we're going to save, or we're going to create a new file, then save index.html file. And we're going to save that to our website and folder, and we should see that within there, right? And the goal of this is to create this model that we had talked about, the semantic model. So we're going to create a header tag, and inside that is going to be a nav. We're going to have an article tag, and inside that is going to be a figure tag, and then we're going to have a footer element. We want it to look just like this. Okay, so how we're going to do that is we're going to start with that HTML5 template. And the way you can do that in VS Code is you can just type in HTML. You can go down to here and click enter, and you will have a shortcut that basically creates that HTML5 template. Now inside the body tag, what we're going to do is we're going to start building out that semantic HTML template. And we're actually going to keep this open so we can take a look at it if we need to reference it, right? So here we go. Right at the top, we have, well, what we have is this outline gray component or element that's wrapping around the whole thing. And we can kind of just keep that as the body tag, right? We can think of that as the body tag. So the first thing we want to do is enter in the header tag. And then it looks like inside the header tag is a nav tag. Okay, so we'll put that in there. And then below that is an article tag. Let's put that in there. And then looks like there's a figure in there. Cool. And it looks like there's a footer below that. Right. Sweet. Now let's compare that to what we would have created if we had followed this model, right? So we got a div, inside that is a span, right? And below that's a div, and within that's a div, right? And then below that's a div. Let's zoom out just to get, so we can compare these a lot better. So we got this compared to that. And wow, you can really tell that this code is a lot easier to read than this code with all these divs, right? That's the importance of semantic HTML. It really cleans up our code and tells us how to, it tells the browser and the developer the meaning of our code. Okay, but there's not really any content on the page, and we kind of want it to look like this. So let's add what we call a link tag, what we learned about in separation concerns, and create a website.css file. And we can do that by doing command click, and it will create the file for us. And now we can start to write our CSS within there. Okay, so we have our header tag and a nav tag within that. And so we want to make the header green, right? So let's go over to our website.css, and we actually can split this right, and close that out. And now we can have them both side to side. That'll make it a lot easier when we start refreshing. Okay, so let's also open up our page. So we can keep that open over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to target our header file, and we're going to, header element, and change the background color to green. Awesome. And if we refresh, we won't see anything because there's no content within page, right? So there's no height to header. So let's actually add a height and a width. and we'll say 100%. So it's equal to the height of our width of our browser. So if we drag it, it will still remain. As you can see, it's always 200 pixels high, but the width is always 100% of the browser. Cool. So now if we go into right above that, let's actually target our body tag, right? And that was supposed to be gray. So you remember that? So the way we could do that is we can write this rule, and it's called border, and we can go 1px solid gray, right? And now we can see you can see it. Maybe it'll be a little clearer if we did 5px, huh? Oh, yeah, that's a lot easier to see. And you can see, like, for some reason, there's this, it doesn't go right to the edge of the browser, right? And that's because by default, some tags have CSS applied to it, right? And in this case, there is a margin being applied to it. So if we do margin 0, we'll actually see that get taken away within the browser. Awesome. And then let's make this the height of the full width of the browser. And this stands for viewport height. So if we do that again, you'll see that it is the height of the viewport. Pretty cool. And if we did 100%, you'll see it's only 100% to the content that's within it, and that's this header element. But for now, let's just keep it here. We'll refresh it. Okay, and then we have this nav element that's within it, right? And so let's target that, and let's give that a background color of light blue. Okay, now if we refresh again, you're not going to see it because there's no height to the element, right? So let's apply some height, and we'll do it half the height of this header, so you should see it halfway. Pretty cool. Okay, but in this diagram, it's kind of off and to the right, right? And there's like these 3 boxes that represent the navigation of our site, and then we have this over here. So if we wanted to follow that, what we could do is we could change the width of this, right? And we could do 50%, right? So now it's only half the size of the browser. And since this header tag is 100% of the browser, that means they will always be 50%. This will always be half the size of the header. Pretty cool. Next, we wanted to color our article orange, and that'll be below our header tag. So what we want to do is target that article element and change the background color to orange, right? And we can save it, and let's give it a height, remember, because it'll be height. There won't be any content, so we need to add height to it, and we'll say that's 500. And look at that. It's right below our header tag that we created up here. And you'll notice that there's a white space here, and you're like, what's going on there? The most likely thing is that there are styles being applied to the header tag, just like the body tag. So if we do margin 0, nope, that wasn't it. Padding 0, nope. Oh, we don't know. So we're going to introduce what we call the dev tools in Chrome and on all browsers. You're going to right click and you're going to inspect. And this is going to pop up in what we call the dev tools. And now you can see, look, we're hovering over this. We're hovering over this, and we can see the different elements on the page, and it'll highlight it for us. See, it says header, and this is article. Now we would assume that for some reason there's a space between these two. Why is that happening? And I would assume it's because there would be some type of issue, and here it is. It's our figure tag that we haven't targeted yet. And see how these rules are being applied to it that we haven't coded ourselves. These are called user agent style sheets, and these are basically default CSS properties. So we can actually even go into here and reset these properties, and we can go margin 0 and wha-bam, that space is gone. Now, if we refresh the page, we'll be like, it's got these style sheets are still there. Right, this is only temporary, right? Whatever we do here is only temporary. Once we refresh, this actually will go away. You can even delete your entire website from here. You can't delete that element, but I believe you can delete the body. And now see, everything's gone. But if we refresh, everything is back to where we were. This is going to be really important when we start debugging our website and trying to build around our code that we've created. Okay, let's close out of the dev tools because we know what's causing that issue now, and we can write a new rule for our figure element, and we can do margin 0 like we wrote before inside the dev tools, and when we refresh that, that goes away, and we can inspect it again, and we can see that we apply, if we open up that element, we can see that rule that we wrote, and it even targets, and here's all of our code. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's continue down. We have that figure element. Let's add a background color to that, and we can apply anything. Let's do aquamarine. We need to apply a height to it, so let's do that. Let's add 100 pixels, and boom, there it is. Cool. And last but not least, let's add the footer into our page. And what color was that? That was a blue. Okay, so let's do that. Target our footer element. Add our background color. Blue. Oh, we spelled background wrong. Let's spell it right. And let's change the height to 300 pixels. And well, bam, we have a basic model of what we created. Now you're wondering, why is it that our border that we created is basically getting overflowed by our elements that we created inside it? And that's because it's at a height of 100 VH, the viewport of our browser, right? And when we load it, this is the view height, right? But if we did 100%, saved it and refreshed it, you'll see that it saves to the content, that it's the height of all of our content. Awesome. And if we wanted to create some space between our border, we could do that. And now we can see all of our elements within it. Pretty neat. So that's the basic idea of semantic HTML. It's a way of describing our code to both the developer and the browser. In the next video, we're going to properly learn the basics of CSS so we can maneuver items around on this page, such as this block over here. Let's say we wanted to change this to be in the bottom right corner instead of the top left. We could apply the position relative to this, right? And then we can go to this tool and we go position absolute. And you might not know what this means, and we're going to learn, but I just want to show you guys. If we do that, whoa, it shifts spots. And if we do bottom 0, now it's at the bottom right corner of our header tag. Look at that. Pretty cool. We're going to learn a lot more about that in the next video. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.